My name is Ken Koo. I work for a marketing agency based out of Dallas, not too far from here, called Imaginuity. And today we're going to talk a little bit about building trust using social media. First of all, just a little bit about Halloween. What a fantastic holiday it is. And a lot of times, a lot of people think of this just for kids. But we all know, being in this show and being in the industry, that it's really for adults. It's for young adults, it's for families, even seniors get into the game nowadays. But before we get into talking about social media and how we use social media, I'd like to show you a little bit in terms of stats and statistics about the Halloween holiday. Did you know that the average person in the past Halloween spends $72 on Halloween merchandise? That's not a trivial amount of money if you think about it. And it becomes very important when we talk a little bit later around how we use social media and what it means. Because $72 does not make it an impulse buy anymore. It's not, you don't walk into the store and pick up a costume at a grocery store and just walk out. It's not a pack of gum. It's not, a soda at a store. It's well thought out, it's planned, and a significant amount of money. I mean, compare that to a tank of gas. What's also interesting is that last year, Halloween as a holiday is close to becoming a $7 billion industry. Very, very significant in terms of dollars. It becomes very important for us to understand these figures and these numbers because we are dealing with a mass audience in terms of the market as well as folks that we're trying to market to. Another interesting statistic, 41 million trick-or-treaters last year from the ages of 5 to 14. That's about 13% of the entire US population went trick-or-treating on one night. So if you take that and then extrapolate that with the ecosystem that's around it, their parents, their grandparents, the families, the parties, the amount of people, just in terms of the sheer volume that's involved with the Halloween holiday is also very significant. It's important for us to understand the volumes that we're dealing with when we market because the power of the social media that we'll talk about later on how economically achievable it is in terms of marketing, the lower cost of entry for social media, as well as the capability for you to reach out to a much larger demographic than any other channel that you can probably do in a traditional marketing perspective. Makes it very important that we understand these numbers. So first and foremost, there's been a lot of conversation around a lot of different channels, whether it's Foursquare or MySpace. There's just a lot of social media tools out there. But what I would suggest, if you have not got these big three established yet, is to focus on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just keep it simple for now. So what we're going to talk about today, how all that data connects with social media and why it becomes relevant, is a little bit of a marketing lesson, quite frankly, that they teach you at colleges and university called the 5 stages of consumer behavior. Remember the slide that I showed you around $72 per person that in terms of average spend for the Halloween merchandise? This model fits for any purchases that's not a impulse buy. Whenever something's planned out, whenever you plan to buy a pair of shoes or a house or a car, you go through these 5 stages every single time, even though you don't know it. So let's go through these stages real quick and see how we can leverage social media to start building that trust, to understand how the consumer's mindset works. The first stage is called awareness. People need to be aware of your brand, whether it's a store, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a seller. They need to understand that you exist and that you're in that consideration set. So for example, if I'm going out to buy a pair of shoes, I need to understand which brands that I want to consider. I want a pair of tennis shoes. Okay, then it's most probably Nike, Reebok, Adidas. I'm going to go do some research to figure out, hey, I need to be aware of that brand so I can put them in my consideration set when I go shopping. The best way to get your name out in the marketplace is through Facebook. Facebook actually has twice as much traffic on it in terms of customer interaction and activity back either to your website or to your store. I know there's been a lot of numbers talked about in terms of how many people actually use Facebook, but it's also important to digest those gigantic numbers. You've heard 800 million, 1 billion people on Facebook. What's important for us to understand in this market is that there's only 116 million users in the United States. So those are the folks that we want to reach out to. But still, it's a very significant amount of numbers. If you think back in terms of some of the financials I talked about, when there's $7 billion in terms of market in terms of Halloween spend last year, if you take that number and divide it by this average dollar per person, you're talking about 100 million to 200 million people that actually pay and become a consumer of Halloween goods. So if you haven't seen the page yet for Halloween Party Expo, I strongly recommend you go into facebook.com and looking up this particular page. We'll talk a little bit later in the presentation on how to set up each one of these social media channels. But for now, I wanted to show you and highlight why Facebook would be a good place to start in terms of building awareness. Facebook gives you the capability to post videos, to post pictures, and distribute all kinds of content, including written content, at no cost. And that's very compelling compared to ad flyer or traditional advertising or TV or radio or even printing and mailing out flyers. It's even cheaper than that. And you're able to reach a tremendous amount of people all at the same time. So we talked a little bit about Facebook in terms of usage. Can anybody guess what is the top consumer brand on Facebook? Any guesses? Anybody? Apple? Apple's a good guess. Nike. Nike's a good guess. It's actually Coca-Cola. That was your second guess? Oh, you should have guessed Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has 37 million likes on their Facebook page. That means every time they post a little piece of content, 37 million people get it on their wall, on their phone, as a text. However you want to consume the information, Facebook pushes that information to you. That's a very powerful message to be able to deliver that kind of content to 37 million people at the same time. And the best part is they opted into that program. You had to like Coca-Cola's page in order to get that data. So I will build out the rest of the slides. Some of these may be surprising. Disney at 31 million. MTV, third most liked consumer brand on Facebook. Starbucks, 27 million. We've got a Starbucks drinker right there. Probably a morning routine. Probably likes them on Facebook. And a surprising one, Oreos. 24 million likes. So you can see the amount of people that are interested in consumer brands on Facebook. And it's not just for sharing photos with families and friends. There's a lot of people that have affinity to various brands. The second stage, information search. It's very important for your customers to be able to find information when they're ready to shop for a product. And you can leverage social media to help them with that as well. For that kind of conversational type of request, we suggest Twitter. And again, we'll talk a little bit about Twitter in terms of how to set it up and how to use it a little bit later in the presentation. But Twitter is a great place to have that dialogue. When somebody asks you a question about a specific product, hey, I need that costume in a boys 4. Do you have that available? You know what? That person is most likely not the only person that asked that question. Post that content. Have that conversation real time with them on Twitter. And you'll most likely answer questions for another set of people that didn't even know that they had a similar question. And it's really good for customer self-service and communicating what you have in terms of product, as well as promotional items. So Twitter for conversations, Facebook for brand and product. The third stage, comparison. So we go through this psychology every single time we look for something. So back to my shoe analogy, I found the brands that I want in terms of a pair of athletic shoes, Nike, Reebok, I've figured out the brands. Okay, I want a pair of basketball shoes. I want one in which I can play basketball in. So now I'm gonna go do information research on that. Now I'm done all my information research around the brands and who sells basketball shoes. I'm ready to compare them. I'm gonna compare my Nike pair of shoes against my Reebok pair of shoes, and I'm gonna compare the prices, I'm gonna compare where I can get them and how soon I can get them. It's very important to help your customers, if you can, around comparison shopping. To be able to control that and not have them leave your brand and actually provide them that kind of information will just make them an advocate for your brand later. They were really helpful. You know what? This may not be I'm going to go ahead and buy this product from this particular vendor because they're so helpful. And if they're not going to buy the product at this point in time, they may come back because you were just so helpful that the next time you may be able to convert them into a customer. So there's a company out there that sells insurance based out of Cleveland, Ohio, that not only shows their price in terms of insurance costs and quotes, but also shows all their competitors' price. Does anybody know the name of that company? Progressive. That's right. So Progressive not only shows information about their product, they show information around competitors' product. Now, I'm not recommending that you put on your website or on Facebook information about your competitor's product, but how you can help and assist your customer with that competitive search psychology. Oh, okay, you're looking for a specific costume that I may not have in stock, but by the way, I can help you with something else. Let me help you figure out what is the best, most creative solution in terms of giving you a specific product. Does anybody know Flo? She has 3 million likes alone on Facebook. So people just follow her just to get some insight into what she does on a daily basis. Very powerful advertising program that they've established. The fourth stage, purchase decision time. They're ready to buy. This is the time really to convert your prospect into a customer, whether that's online or offline. It's time to make the move for them to become a customer. And then that brings us, after they become your customer, into the last stage, which is post-buying behavior. This is actually the most important stage out of the 5 stages of consumer behavior. At this point in time, they can either become an advocate for your brand, which will be very powerful on social media, or they can become a detractor. So how you treat that customer after they've made that purchase is equally important as all the steps before it. It's very important to try to get your customer to become an advocate on your brand on social media because of something called the viral effect or the network effect. That is really, truly the power of social media, is that when you influence one customer and they become an advocate, they know more people. And those people know more people. So it becomes this continuous cycle, kind of the snowball effect of free, cheap advertising. The power and the word of mouth and that reputation management becomes very important. I know that whenever I'm interested in something, I want to have a conversation with somebody about a pair of shoes or whatever product it is, I'll typically go talk to my neighbor, I'll talk to my friends. I value their opinion much more than going online and reading a review. So how do we get started? First, let's talk about Facebook. If you don't have an account already, go to facebook.com and create an account. That part is pretty simple. But it's what happens after that that you should take some time into considering what to do next. So don't simply create a Facebook account and then use that for your brand. What you want to do is create a page. You can use an account, you can create an account for your usage in terms of posting information purposes. But way down there in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a create a page function. And you want to create a page for several reasons. First reason, whenever you create a Facebook account, you have a username, password, and email associated with that. You really can't or shouldn't share that with anybody else in terms of usage. When you create a page, you have the capability to share it with other people. You can have more than one administrator post that content, review that content. And also, pages can expire. You can delete them. You can create them. You can make a mistake. And you can redo pages time after time after time. So whenever you click on Create a Page, you come to this screen. What I would recommend is taking a look at the first 3 choices that's available to you there. The first one being the local place or business. You've often heard about a lot of people checking into places. Well, whenever you create a local place or business, you actually provide them the address of your physical store, if you have a physical store. And once you create that page as a place in Facebook, people can start checking in to your store. Another option, if you're a company that does not have a physical location, is to simply create an organization or company page. So for example, Halloween Party Expo has an organization page. Lastly, the third one I would consider is a brand page. A brand page is more specific. You can target very specific people with respect to the product. Underneath the choose a category, you can select, hey, I want to target this for child and baby goods, or I want to target this for sporting goods. I want to target this for Halloween costumes. I want to target this for parties. I want to target this for decorating. There's a lot of different categories in which you can place this particular page within these categories in Facebook, which makes it a little bit more specific and easier for people to search against to find their specific product or service. So as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't had a chance to visit Halloween Party Expo's Facebook page, they are actually an organization within Facebook. That's the category that they selected when they created it. And you actually have capability to customize your Facebook page. You can add a logo and change the content. You can create a custom tab, welcome tab, when somebody comes on your page. We previously saw the progressive one with Flow. That was a custom welcome page. When somebody comes to your Facebook page, you can give them that welcome message, and it can be branded whatever way you want to brand it. So you have that type of custom branding capability within Facebook. So let's talk a little about Twitter. Twitter's a little bit different. If you haven't got an account yet, you need to go to twitter.com. And the important thing to remember about Twitter is whatever you sign up as in terms of your username here in the upper right-hand corner becomes what is called your handle or your name on Twitter. So mine is Ken Koo, my username is Ken Koo, but you can also message me through Twitter at Ken Koo. So it's important to make that linkage. There's no such thing as a concept of a page within Twitter. You will have a single account username, and you will have to share that with other folks within your organization if you plan on using Twitter. But Twitter also gives you the capability, as you see the Halloween Party Expo page, they also give you the capability to customize some elements. The logo can be changed, the background can be changed, the theme color can actually be changed, this green over here on the side. So you have some capability to do some creative work as well in terms of branding on Twitter. Gives your customers that feeling of, A, authenticity, that, hey, I arrived at the real page for Halloween Party Expo versus some community page or some third party that just wanted to talk about Halloween Party Expo. It gives them a sense of authenticity. Last but not least, we'll talk a little bit about YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to create a YouTube account yet, you go to youtube.com, and the create account function is in the upper right-hand corner. And when you create a YouTube account, you actually create a Google account. So if you have a Gmail email service right now, you actually already have a Google account. But if you don't have a Gmail service or use any of the Google products, you will have to register here and get a Google account. The next step after that is to create a channel. It brings you right into, after registration, to creating a specific, unique YouTube channel that's for you. So for example, if I wanted to create a Kenku channel, I would put in my name here as the channel name, and then I can start sending out information via emails or other advertising, or just telling people, hey, if you want to see a video on my specific content, whether it's a product or a service, go to youtube.com/Kenku. So the channel name here becomes part of that vanity domain that you're able to advertise with and give to your customers. Again, if you haven't had a chance to visit the Halloween Party Expo YouTube page, they have some really excellent content out there about town, what is going on in Houston, and about the event itself. I actually reviewed a couple of these prior to coming to the show just to see what kind of expect. They'll do a recap every year of the show as they posted content here from 2011. You also have some branding elements that you can perform here on YouTube as well. You can have the logo adjusted, as well as YouTube also allows you to create custom color schemes as well. So you can brand that as well. So just to recap, last but not least, the 5 stages of consumer behavior that people go through every time that they make a significant purchase. To think through and remember those 5 stages, and hopefully you'll be able to take that and apply it to any social media efforts that you perform in moving into the future. Thank you.
We can take a couple questions right now.
Absolutely.
Are there ways for consumers to put up false negative things, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So there's a couple. So the question was, is there a way for customers to post or author false content, essentially, is the question. Is that right? So there's a couple of ways to do this. So on Facebook, you can actually review every single post. It's a setting that you can provide in Facebook that you have the capability to review any piece of content before it hits your wall or your page. So that's one function that you can have enabled.
Is there a dislike?
There's no dislike function in Facebook, but if anybody wants to post content, you can set up a filter in which you have to approve that particular piece of content first before it gets posted on your page.
Are they made aware of that?
Is the end user made aware of that?
Yeah, that we're going to review it before we post it?
Yes, they are made aware of that. So.
It can also be deleted once it's posted on there, right?
Correct. So as an administrator, that's also one of the nice parts about creating a page, is that if there's a piece of content that you don't agree with, the administrators of that particular page can delete that piece of content. You can also hide it.
And when they go to search it, they can still see it. Nobody else will. So they still think it's wrong.
Now, is that just Facebook or Twitter?
That is just Facebook. So Twitter doesn't give you the capability to delete specific pieces of content like that. So there's no scrubbing function within Twitter.
How long do those things stay out there?
There's no timeout type of functionality or archiving functionality within Twitter. What I would suggest is that you can't get down to the granular level of a specific piece of content, but what you can do is you can approve or not approve certain people on your Twitter feed to post content prior to them giving them access for the general public for that particular channel or for your page.
Is there a lot of, like, let's say, competitors putting things out there under a fictitious name or a name that you wouldn't think was a competitor?
We haven't seen a whole lot of that right now. We actually perform social media monitoring for a lot of our customers, where we have a tool that goes out and monitors all their different channels as reputation management. Primarily banks and insurance companies retain us to help them do that. But we haven't seen a lot of that. What I think that they've taken a higher road where they are working on their own page, working on their own content, rather than nefariously looking at sabotaging other people's content.
I don't know about Twitter.
Uh-huh.
Like, if somebody was to post negative information, can you kick them off and their post will go away as well, or do they stay there?
No, you can remove them permanently.
Okay, and then those posts
Will go
go
away.
away with them?
That's Twitter.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you can also set up an approval process before they're allowed to post as part of your feed. So there's that type of functionality on both Facebook
Would you recommend that?
and Twitter.
Is that a good thing to do, or is it going to stop people?
Well, I think it's, again, what you're trying to accomplish. If you're using it as a marketing advertising tool to reach the masses, a lot of people in a short amount of time, it's certainly more economical to use Facebook or Twitter than, for example, traditional print. I mean, just think of the cost of stamps times the number of flyers that you have or a mailer that you have. If you're trying to get the word out, then I would say just leave it public so everybody can consume that data. But what you may want to do is limit the people that can post back onto your wall. You can make it a one-way conversation instead of giving people the immediate capability to post on your wall. You can just push information out. If that's what you want to use it for.
Your wall, that's Facebook.
That's Facebook, yes, sir.
Are the two linked together in some way?
You can link Twitter to Facebook. Every time you make a post on Twitter, you can have that show up on Facebook as well.
I know nothing about Twitter. Twitter older there, that's why she has it.
Yes, sir.
Excluding things that are sort of libelous and whatever on posting, you delete those. Is there much use of negative feedback, like as a marketing tool? Every business has to get some negative feedback sometime.
Sure.
You know, it's better probably to manage it than delete it.
Absolutely.
Is that a thought?
Yeah, actually a lot of companies do that. So there's I don't know where everybody's from, but there's a little video rental company named Blockbuster that's struggling in Dallas, and they've had a lot of adverse customer reactions in terms of stores shutting down and customer service overall. And they take that as an opportunity where, hey, I'm sorry that you're at store XYZ and that you're struggling. Let me help you with that problem. Let me see if I can resolve that problem. Try to turn that detractor into an advocate. Oh, I don't know how many times that I've gone to a Starbucks, for example, where they got my coffee wrong, and they'll fix it for free. And I feel much better as a consumer where I know that I'm going to run into problems when I buy things, that if you're able to help me, I'm more likely to come back to you a second time or a third time. So people do use that as a channel in terms of customer support, especially Twitter. Several financial institutions, Discover has the credit card company, have 3 people that monitor that channel full time, and they actually use it as a channel where they get support tickets and manage customer service that way as well. So they do that.
I'm thinking about starting a blog.
Okay.
And I have a home lingerie party business, so I want it to be a pay for to make sure there's nobody underage. You know, like $3 or $5 or whatever.
Sure.
But wouldn't a blog be the same as like the Facebook or something? I mean,
Yep.
or is that just me saying blah 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 blah? Get some points, or I mean, my partner says no, and I'm like, you know, they seem to be the thing.
Right.
I mean, are they one and the same, or?
So I think it really depends on the usage you want to have on your blog. So blogs are very powerful in terms of content generation. You can have a lot more content in terms of digesting that content on a blog than on Facebook. People typically have a very short attention span when it comes to Facebook and Twitter. They'll get it on their phone, they'll use the app, it's a one-liner, correct, and they move on. But if somebody's really deep and interested, perhaps it's about some sort of inspiration or creative thing that you're doing, they'll typically come to your blog. Another way to set up that interaction is to promote your blog on Facebook. So then you can generate some traffic. Like I mentioned previously, people love to consume content on Facebook, and then the linking between Facebook and other web pages become very powerful, both for Google search engine optimization, as well as just that interaction. A lot of people tend to click on more things through Facebook than they do on Twitter. When people see on Twitter the little shortened URL, they don't understand where that goes.
Every time I put my website on Facebook, I mean, the views just spike up.
Right.
And the days I don't, it's like way down.
Exactly. So it works. It definitely does work. So it's a way for you to promote that content. I would keep the things that are rich in terms of content on your blog, and then use Facebook to promote that. Other questions?
Sounds like you have to do a lot of monitoring.
For some folks, you do have to do a lot of monitoring. I think it's, as you learn more about social media, you want to control the things you can control. Quite frankly, it is not, because of that viral and network effect, you're using that power of the network to get the word out. So there is a point where you do relinquish control to the consumer to spread that information. But at the same time, that's why it's very important to have your own Facebook page, your own Twitter channel, because you can then direct that content and direct that energy and focus to something you actually have control over, that you can monitor. What tends to happen with some of our customers is that they will go on Facebook and find something that somebody else just built, and it has their brand on it. They'll build a community page with, hey, how my experience was with this particular brand or this bank or whatever it is, and it's not the appropriate one, but they'll use the logo and everything. So the authenticity isn't there, but people don't know that. So you give them a place that they can come to as you promote it. Hey, this is the authentic page, this is my page, this is my brand. That way you can funnel the conversations there instead of having them someplace else, because they're going to have the conversation regardless whether you set up a page or not. Is that, do you give them a forum and a place to facilitate that conversation? And I think it's much better for you to know that they're out there than for you to not know that they're out there. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.